Welcome to Straightway Through with Gina, the podcast where we say it straight, say it true, say it kind every time to the best of our ability, which means we don't always get it right. I don't always get it right. I am sure you don't always get it right. And it's not going to change anytime soon. But we keep working on our communication skills. We keep getting better in our relationships so that we can feel more connected. And that connection doesn't always come from relationships with other people. It comes from being connected to yourself. That is really essential to anything that I teach. You can't find connection with other people if you don't feel connected inside of yourself. So, all these conversations aim to help you connect more with yourself, meaning getting to know yourself better, getting to understand yourself better, being able to stop in your communications and pause and say, what's happening here? How am I feeling in my body? What's happening in my thought world? How could I change what's going on inside of me so that it can come across better to the person standing in front of me? Because when you connect with yourself, when you feel grounded in yourself, when you feel safe, when you feel secure, when you feel heard, when you feel seen by you, then it's easier to get that in your relationships, but you're not dependent on it. You don't need to get it from another person. Imagine being able to feel safe in your relationships. Like you have a conversation with somebody and it doesn't go the way that you want it to, meaning maybe they misperceive what you're saying. Maybe they aren't listening to you. Maybe they're stuck in some kind of a habit that it feels like they're just not present. You can still maintain center, feel connected, feel safe, even though that's happening, if you work to establish that connection inside of you. And then all of these things on the outside, they just take on a different feel, a different meaning, a different purpose. It doesn't mean that you don't seek connection with other people. You do, but only once you have it established in yourself. Meaning, you work on you, you take that log out of your own eye, you work on the things inside of yourself, you get to clear understanding, clear meaning, clear objective, clear purpose. And then that's when the relationships on the outside take shape in a different way than when you're out seeking to make those relationships give you the things that you want, the safety, the care, the being seen, the being heard. It is a real paradigm shift when you get to the place in your life and you say, I think these relationships are less about the people at the other end, like standing opposed to me, than they are about me. Like they're more about me. And when you do that inner work, then you see the outer relationship change. Okay. And I'm not saying, please, I caught this in my own, it's because sometimes one of the things that I notice is if we don't speak about something thoroughly, it's easy for others to think that they know what we mean, even if we don't. So I do want to go back and add a little bit more to something that I said. When I said you connect with yourself first, it's not so much about the other person. Once you're connected with yourself, all of that, it doesn't mean that you stop connecting with other people in order to connect with yourself. You're still communicating, you're still connecting, you're still seeking those kinds of relationships. But you understand that the primary relationship for you to work on is the one inside yourself, is the one you have with God. And when you have the one with yourself and the one with God in right alignment, then the ones outside of you, they're going to work out better. Does that mean they're going to look perfect? No way. Okay, there's no way. That just doesn't happen. Okay, it doesn't happen not in this life, okay? We're not meant to have perfection while we're here on earth. We're meant to keep trying. We're meant to keep practicing. We're meant to aim for that perfection without being discouraged when we don't get it. Okay, today's topic is a topic that is really a special one for me. It's a topic that it's one of those things. There's a lot of things in this world that are very socially acceptable, even though they're highly detrimental. Before I get into the topic, I want to give an example of what I mean by this, aside from the one I'm going to give today. Many, many years ago, I noticed that there are certain, well, we can call them addictions, even though that might not be the standard term for it. But like, let's look at gambling, for example. Gambling is addictive, and there, I mean, maybe not in the same way that nicotine is, okay? But what I mean is it's a habit and it's something that people can get pulled into where they have a very hard time not doing it. Right? So when I say like addiction, like a gambling addiction, it's something that you do, you crave, you don't feel right without it. It's not even so much a will as it is this urge that you have to keep satisfying to continue gambling. So I noticed many years ago that people who gambled, it was kind of like an addiction. Okay, I watched it very up close. All right, I used to be a bartender in my younger days, and I saw a lot of gambling. And when I saw the gambling, it was really upsetting to me for this reason. It's very socially acceptable in certain circles, even glorified, even like, whoa, like, oh, that's the guy that wins all the time, right? It's like there's a lot of stories in people's minds. There's a lot of mystery and mm, reverence for people that are good gamblers, or if somebody walks through the door and they have some kind of reputation that follows them in the gambling. It's applauded, it's paraded, it's exciting for some people. Yet it's still this addiction, what I would call an addiction, which means something that you don't really have control over. It takes control of your life. You're doing it every day. You need to do it in order to feel good, to feel satisfied, to feel happy, even though it's not real happiness. That kind of an addiction that gets glorified like that instead of seen as debilitating and diminishing of who you could be, it's sad. Because if you take someone, let's take someone who has an addiction to something that the world doesn't glorify, right? Like if somebody has a serious drug problem, that's usually not glorified. Okay, they're usually seen as really struggling or really hurting, or it's seen as sad. And so in a sense, that's actually better that it's seen as sad, because then the person who is hurting themselves isn't getting patted on the back for it. But with gambling, they're still hurting themselves when it's in addiction, okay? And they're getting patted on the back for it. So it's kind of like glorifying this thing that isn't really healthy. And I noticed that a long time ago, and with gambling, and I see it in other forms that are even more subtle in society. And one of them I'm going to share about today. Let's see if we can get into this topic. It's not something that is talked about often because it's very socially acceptable. Yet it is not healthy, not good, creates a lot of problems, unseen problems even, for the person who's engaging in it, as well as the people who are not engaging in it. Let me explain. In our society, it's very common. Let's say you have two people, Tommy and Tony, okay? And Tommy and Tony are in the same workplace, or in the same family, or in the same job, right? They work together, or they're family together. Maybe they're neighbors. Maybe they live on the same street. Okay, so either they live on the same street, they work together, or they're in the family together. And Tommy and Tony don't get along. Tommy has a friend named Susie. And Tommy goes to Susie and talks about Tony all the time. Now, he's not going to Susie to talk about Tony in a way that's necessarily malicious, meaning he doesn't go and say, like, oh, I'm going to do this to hurt Tony. He's not doing it for those reasons. He's doing it for reasons like, oh, he wants to be heard. He wants to feel like somebody gets him, somebody understands him. He wants to process his feelings. He wants to vent because he's steaming mad that Tony kicked his trash can and he saw it on camera. Okay, whatever it is. Right, so he goes to Susie and he vents. He tries to get some understanding from her. He processes his feelings. And maybe he does this every day. Maybe he does it once a week. Maybe he does it once a month. It doesn't matter. But Susie's his go to person whenever Tony is acting up. Okay. This hurts all three people. Number one, it hurts Tommy because he's the one using his mouth for something that is not fruitful. And I'm going to explain a little bit more, actually pulling some amazing Bible verses and sharing those with you so that you can see how how hurtful it is for Tommy, the one talking. Right? It's also hurtful for Susie, the one listening, and it's also hurtful for Tony, the one who's not present. This is incredibly socially acceptable, okay? I see it all the time. I have seen it my entire life, okay? There is not a period in my life or a place in my life where I haven't seen it, okay? So whether it's been school or it's been work or it's been families or it's been neighbors, okay, it happens all over, and it's very socially acceptable. It happens a lot in families. So one family member is very triggered by another family member. And so they go and talk to a third family member about that. Okay. And it becomes their go to person. So harmful for all three parties. And I'm going to share a little bit more about how it's harmful for each of those three parties. But first, I'm making the point, I'm making the case for how this is a socially acceptable behavior. We see it all the time. And while it may not, it's not that it's out wordly glorified or it's just like out, it's just it's not glorified maybe to the same degree as when the gambler walks through the doors and everybody goes, whoa, like that's the guy that wins all the time. It's not maybe like that, but when I say glorified is it creates a lot of fake alliances, fake intimacy, fake closeness in relationship when it's incredibly destructive. So it's seen as a good thing. It's felt as soothing or comfort or care or understanding or alliance, right? Or a friend, a go-to, right? Someone on your side, in your corner, when it has nothing to do with any of those things. It's absolute deception. Okay. That is not what it is. Okay, so Tommy's going to Susie and he's saying, "I can't believe Tony. He kicked my garbage can. He is so angry. He takes all." And he might not be calling him names. He might just be recounting what's going on in his mind. But here's the problem. One problem. There's many problems, but here's one problem. Susie is getting a firsthand account not of Tony, but of Tommy's version of Tony. And it's very hard for the human mind, okay, which is not incredibly discerning. Discernment is something that you have to grow. Discernment is something that you work toward and you never gain perfection with, but you become more and more discerning over your lifetime if and only if you are working on that discernment. So if you keep feeding yourself bad food and alcohol and drugs and nicotine, all these things, caffeine, all these things that they do something to your mind. If you're loading yourself up with all of these things, your mind has a very hard time functioning at a basic level on some things. It's not going to get to precision discernment. Aside from not feeding yourself all of these things, you also have to be actively thinking about, reflecting on, questioning, looking for discernment, asking God for discernment. God is the one who delivers discernment. God is the one who says, yes, it's time for your discernment to move up a notch. So even if Susie's very smart, even if Susie has a high IQ, even if Susie is street smart, okay, there's things that are happening in Susie's mind that she doesn't even realize when Tommy is telling her all these things about Tony. She doesn't realize, I'd say for 98% of the people, okay, they don't realize that the image that they're taking in of Tony is not based on reality. It's based on Tommy's eyes. Even if it sounds like Tommy is stating all the facts, even if Susie is like, no, no, I'm smart, I'm street smart, I'm book smart, I'm smart. He's just listing facts. And so I know that the things that I think about Tony are not Tommy's interpretation because Tommy only gave me the facts. Well, maybe you didn't hear other facts. I mean, first of all, we don't know that they're all facts. I mean, they might sound like facts, but we don't know that they are. But even if they were, let's just assume that they were facts. We haven't heard other facts that might negate or cancel out or add to or take away from the facts that you have heard. So it puts Susie at a real disadvantage because now Susie is thinking things about Tommy that have nothing to do with truth, very likely. Okay, they have to do with Tommy and his trigger, his emotions that are out of place, meaning that are not centered. Because if he was centered, even when Tommy did something to him, he wouldn't feel like he was going to explode. He wouldn't need to vent. Okay. He would know how to regulate that in other ways, and he wouldn't have to go to Susie to get help with that. Okay. He would be able to do it in a way that didn't create using his mouth for things that are not fruitful. Okay, so now we've talked it's not a good situation for Tommy because he is using his mouth to do things in ways that are not helping build him up, not helping build Tony up, not helping build Susie up. It hurts Susie because and it also keeps him in delusion, by the way. I mean, there's so many pieces to this, but there's no way I could get to it in one episode. Okay, so I'm really skimming the surface on all of this. Okay, but there's a lot of deception going on in Tommy in order for him to even be engaged in that. Then it puts Susie at a disadvantage because she's hearing things now and she's not even, I know she thinks she is. This is what all people in Susie's situation will think. Oh no, like I have my own mind. I would be able to tell if Tony really wasn't a horrible person. I would be able to tell. I've seen it over and over and over again. I know it feels like that when you're in Susie's position, but it's not the case. You can't tell. You don't even have any idea how much distortion is at play in these situations. You're not sitting in a seat of discernment. You're sitting in a seat of unload. You're actually being unloaded upon and you're taking it and it's causing you to form ideas, opinions, thoughts, perceptions, judgments, all kinds of things that are not based on a clear, two-sided story. Okay. So that's how those two people are already in harm's way. Now you talk about Tony, the guy who's down the street and isn't participating in this conversation. How is it hurting him? It's hurting him because number one, he has one person who is speaking out words against him. Okay. Even if Tommy's not calling him names, even if he's not doing things like that that seem malicious, talking about him like that instead of dealing with him hurts Tony. Okay, because he has words that are being used against him, against his good, fruitful, successful life. They're not building him up. They're not helping him. They're not helping him with reflection. They're not helping him with closeness. They're not helping him with brotherly love. They're not helping him with friendliness. They're not helping him with compassion. They're not helping him with anything. They're not inviting him into something better. They're not giving him a chance to share his side. Nothing. Okay. So he is being talked against. Words are like curses, right? Or blessings, depending on the words. So he is literally being cursed because he's certainly not being blessed by those words. And there's only two kinds of words. There's blessings and there's curses. Okay. So he's being cursed. And every time Susie sees him drive down the street, she thinks horrible things of him. Like, I can't believe that guy. I can't believe he was kicking Tommy's trash can. Right? Like, Even if Tony waves, he says, "Hey, Susie," and she waves back, "Hey, Tony." Okay, but in her mind, she's like, "I can't believe him. What nerve. How does he kick Tommy's trash can and then wave to me like we're friends?" Okay, so Susie has hesitation, apprehension. She doesn't trust him. And for what reason? Not necessarily because he's an untrustworthy guy. We don't know. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But because her mind has been fed by Tommy. Because Tommy's case seems legit, right? Somebody did kick his trash can, and maybe it was even Tony. Who knows? But we don't know the rest of the story. And we're never going to get the rest of the story from Tommy. Tommy can't give the rest of the story. It's not his to give. He doesn't even have it. Okay, so now you have three people that are clearly at a disadvantage. There's no one here who's in it getting a gain. There's no one here who's prospering from this act. Now, let's say Tony gets wind that Tommy and Susie are having these conversations about him. Okay, let's say Tony goes to Tommy. I shouldn't have named them Tony and Tommy, but hey, we got to stick with it at this point. Okay, Tony goes to Tommy and Susie and says, "I know you guys are talking about me. Eric down the street told me you are. Please don't do that anymore. You're hurting yourself. You're hurting each other. You're hurting me. Please don't do that." And Tony says that. And as he turns to go back into his car, Tommy and Susie look at each other, roll their eyes, and say, "Do you believe that? Do you believe him? What nerve? Can't believe him." They just keep talking about him. It wouldn't be so sad if this wasn't the state of so many human relationships. What would be the healthy thing? Before I do want to share, there's so many Bible verses that I have found that I think speak directly to this. I mean, I literally found them I looked, because I really wanted to get clear. What does the Bible set forth for us in terms of this subject? Because I feel like I have been given discernment to see how detrimental this socially acceptable behavior is. I feel I have been given discernment to see that we are called to invite people out of it. I feel I have been given the discernment to understand that it is not something that I will participate in. Okay. And if ever I fall into it, right, because I am not perfect, if ever I fall into it, I fall into either listening to someone or catching myself, even if it's about a customer service representative. If I find myself venting to someone else about that, I catch myself and I go, "Ooh, am I using my words right now to bless or curse that customer service representative?" I mean, it's something that there is no end to where we can find ourselves doing it, meaning it's kind of like a human condition. It's a human fault. And if we all have that fault and we're all actually seeking a way out of it, we're going to clean up a lot, but we're still going to fall sometimes. So we have to keep looking for the subtle places. Maybe we've been able to not do it to the degree that our neighbor is doing it, but where are we still doing it? So where am I still doing it? And I always find new places, right? So even if I am not doing it in area in zone A anymore, right? Then I go, wow, look what just happened. Like something just happened, right? I got off the phone with that customer service representative and then I got on a call with somebody else and I said, "Do you believe this customer service representative?" And then I start talking poorly about them. "I can't believe it. They didn't hear a word I said." And it's again, I'm gonna stay focused. Okay, I could go in so many different directions and I want to, and maybe I'll do other episodes on this topic, but for right now, let me stay clear and focused. Okay. Before I read some of these verses, which I deliberately turn to the Bible specifically to find verses that speak to this thing in particular, our mouth and our words and what we say and how we talk to people and how we talk about people or don't talk about people. And before I say that, I want to share like what's the way that someone can deal with their frustration without talking to another about it. And it's very simple. Okay. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying it's very simple. Let's go back to the situation where Tommy is upset with Tony and Tony has kicked his garbage can or done whatever he's done. And Tommy's really upset. He's frustrated. First, he has to figure out what's going on inside of him. And he may need a therapist or a coach or God, okay, or himself to process this with. It's best to go to one of those people. You can still fall into the trap of talking about other people, even with a coach or a therapist or God. Okay. And so you want to be sure that you're talking and that your language is clean, even in those places, meaning even if you are talking about a story about someone to get help on what your next action should be, it should really have a feel of it's not venting and you're not doing it to get alliance, to gain alliance. Because when you're doing it to gain alliance, it's not going to work out in your favor. It's not working out in anybody's favor. It's just going to feel good momentarily, but you're setting yourself up for destruction. So you can find a way to talk about things in a way that doesn't try to gain alliance, that doesn't try to position you in the right and the other person in the wrong. But you have to notice all of these things. Okay. I notice them all the time in myself, right? On all different kinds of levels. It's just the human condition. Okay. So there's no shame here. I'm not shaming you for having participated in this. I'm not shaming myself for having participated in this. I'm calling us into a higher way of being. And you are going to see the fruits of it. You are going to experience the wins. Now, there might be a lot of challenge in the midst of all of that, but you are going to understand how using your words affects you greatly and other people greatly. Okay, so Tommy is really upset. So maybe he has someone that he talks to, but again, it's not a neighbor. It's not creating these weird relationships with mutual parties, but it's a therapist, it's a coach, it's God. And he goes in this manner. He doesn't say, "Oh, do you believe what he did? He kicked my trash can." He doesn't do that. He goes and he says, "I'm really upset. I'm really triggered. I'm having a crazy amount of emotions because something happened and I'm not able to maintain my center. And I want to figure out how to get myself to center and how to take appropriate action." All right. That is not talking about somebody. Okay. When you're doing that to the coach, a therapist with God. All right. It's not a mutual party. You're not creating alliances. You're not looking for someone to say, "Oh, you're right and they're wrong." It's completely different. When you say that, you're also not building the case of you're right and they're wrong. You're saying, here's a situation. I need to figure out how to take a step and I need to manage my emotions in the meantime. Can you help? Give me some clear guidance. Okay. Give me the perspective that's going to help me walk this. Then you figure out, number one, where are these emotions coming from? What are they connected to? Because anytime you're that triggered, it's never about the person who seems like it is. It's never about them. It's just not. It is so clear. It is so clear. When you do the work on yourself, you will always realize this as truth. It is never about the person. The one that's getting you to that emotional state, it's never about them. I mean, hey, maybe it's about them, but not at that time. It's old stuff that's just been kicked up. And when that kicks up, it's good to identify where it's being kicked up from. What's the stuff that it's kicking up? Okay, what's that? Because that is where you're going to be able to get this charge, this emotional charge or emotional reactivity to center. So you get yourself to center, and then you think, okay, if it was my job to invite this person into a better relationship, And it was my job to invite myself into handling this in a way that is fruitful. How would I proceed? And you start to explore this. Okay, so there's two parts, right? One is you're owning your feelings. Two is you're directing your actions. It's not going to feel gratifying right away because the habit, the addiction is to go and vent and talk to somebody and gain alliance so that they can say, "You're right." Even if they don't say those words, that's what you're looking for. "Oh, he did that to your garbage can? I can't believe him." What does that equal? "You're right." Okay, because that's what the addictive part of you, the part that feeds off of that, needs that, is looking for, and if you're not gonna get that and you're used to getting that, it's gonna be hard at first, but you can do it. If you're Susie in the story, it's also very detrimental for you to be listening to someone vent who isn't getting control of their feelings and going through that self-reflective process. It's a dangerous place to be in. And I'm going to read, I think there's 2 verses here that speak to that. And then for Tony, it's kind of hard. It's kind of sad for Tony because there's not a whole lot he can do except for continuing to invite these people into no longer talking about him and to come up with a way where he feels he is doing his best to make the case that he doesn't support this kind of behavior. Because him supporting that kind of behavior is like consenting to it. And we don't want to consent to things like that. Just like Susie is hurting herself by consenting to it, Tony would be hurting himself by consenting to it. So he has to create a divide. He has to stand against it in the most invitational way possible. Meaning it's not about writing them off, but it's about saying like, I'm asking you guys to stop. And if you don't want to stop, I'm going to make it clear that I'm not aligned with this, right? So whatever kind of boundaries he has to put in place or however he works it out, he's got to figure something out. And then he's got to take his frustration to God, to himself, to a counselor, to a coach, to whoever. Okay, let me read some verses. I don't know if I'm going to comment on them. Maybe I will if I feel called to, but otherwise I'll just read them. This first one is from Ephesians 4:29. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. Wow. If I read nothing else, really? I mean, let me read that again. Did you hear that? Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. That addresses so much right there in that one sentence. The next time a word comes out of your mouth or a word comes out of my mouth, think like right now I should be thinking. I mean, I am thinking, okay, is everything I said so far, is what I'm going to say after this, is it going to benefit those who listen? And all I can do is with my current level of discernment, decide whether that's true. I might think it's true today, and then I might grow in discernment a year from now and be like, oh, that wasn't beneficial. And there's no getting around that. Okay. That's life and that's learning and that's growth. And we just accept that. But to the best of my discernment, what I'm saying here today is helpful for someone who listens. Next one is Ephesians 4:31. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away from you, along with all malice. I said before that it's not necessarily out of maliciousness that Tommy is going to Susie and talking about Tony, or he's upset. He's clearly upset, okay, and he doesn't know how to regulate. So we can feel bad for him in that sense, right? There's he's not doing this to be mean, and he hasn't yet developed the discernment to understand how harmful it is. What's sad though is that he doesn't even reflect on what Tony says when Tony goes to him and says, "Please stop talking about me. This is very hurtful. It's very harmful. You're hurting yourself, you're hurting Susie, and you're hurting me." It's sad he doesn't reflect on that. If he could get to the point where he could reflect on that, he might realize that there's another way. So even though he's not being malicious, okay, it's still bitter talk, it's still wrath, it's still anger, it's still clamor, and it is slander. Okay, I wrote. I want to share the definition of slander here because I think it's important. The definition that I got from Merriam-Webster right online is the utterance of false charges or misrepresentations which defame and damage another's reputation. So remember, Susie's only getting one side of the story. She never heard Tony's side. Yet her thinking of him, like her thoughts of him are really bad. His reputation is ruined in Susie's eyes. Again, even if she thinks she's the smartest person and can maintain separation, it's not the way the human mind works. Psalm 15:3, who does not slander with his tongue and does no evil to his neighbor? It's part of a sentence, but you get the idea, I hope. Same thing with this one, Titus 3:2, to speak evil of no one. Wow, imagine that. Not the customer service representative, not the garbage truck that drove over your new garbage can. Right? Speak evil of no one. No one. Not the thief that stole your car. Speak evil of no one. Again, none of us are perfect, okay? It's not like we're going to achieve perfection. But what would your life look like if you decided that you were going to do your best to speak evil of no one? Not the person that rammed you really hard with their shoulder as they were walking out of the store. No one. Speak evil of no one. Not the person who you're furious with because they, I don't know, whatever you get furious about, whatever triggers you. Evil of no one. Psalm 101:5, whoever slanders their neighbor in secret, I will put to silence. Whoever has haughty eyes and a proud heart, I will not tolerate. Now, this one, for me personally, I feel like, oh, I've got to be really careful here because I'm going to give you an example. Back years ago, I had a job, and at the job, there was someone who was she formed alliances with each employee by talking about other employees with that one employee. So, for example, let's say there were 5 people who worked there in addition to her. She would talk with each one of those 5 people about the other 4 people. You get the idea, hopefully. Okay, in that situation, I picked up on that really quickly, what was happening. And I divorced myself from it. I did not participate. I did not listen to her. I would not give her my ear for that kind of talk. And I imagined, of course, that she was probably talking about me in the same way to the others as she would talk about them to me or try to talk to me about them. And I noticed that was, I won't say that was when I first noticed this process, this human habit behavior, but it's where it became really apparent how ingrained into our system, our society, our humanness it is. I saw the level of destruction there. It would be really easy for me to just say, well, I don't do that. I am better than her. And that's haughty. right? So it's really important for me to stay very grounded when I'm talking about this. I am not better. So, like, if I have stopped talking about people in zone A and there are still people doing that in zone A, I'm not better than them. And I have to be really careful that I don't put myself in that seat of being better than them. Because if I do, God is saying that that is not looked on as favorable. Okay, so it's not about being better than someone else. It's about when you get discernment that something is harmful, you do invite people into participating in better, more healthier activities and moving away from the harm. Next is First Peter 2:1. So put away all malice and all deceit and hypocrisy and envy and all slander. I love this one. Proverbs 26:20. For lack of wood, the fire goes out, and where there is no whisperer, quarreling ceases. So, a lot of the fighting, a lot of the carrying on in this world, a lot of the drama, a lot of the heated stuff. Okay, if there weren't people whispering about talking about other people, right? That whispering behind people's backs, it literally creates the quarrels. When the whispering ceases, the quarreling ceases. If you don't feed a fire wood, it goes out. Proverbs 10:18. Whoever conceals hatred with lying lips and spreads slander is a fool. I had to reflect on this one because it's that language, whoever conceals hatred with lying lips. Like, what does that mean? Conceals hatred with lying lips. Think of it like this. When Tommy goes and talks about Tony to Susie, he isn't saying I hate him, right? He's not there doing it maliciously, but he is hating him. I mean, he is. He's hating him. And so it's almost like his lips are not saying he hates him, but he's acting as if he hates him because he's not going to his brother Tony and saying, "Hey brother, let's fix this. Let's deal with this." That would take a lot of courage, and it's not even just courage. It's hard. It's so hard to face these things in life. It's hard. I mean, it's important that we have compassion for the people who are talking about others. So if there are people talking about you in your life right now, it's important to have compassion for them because, again, they're not doing it, they don't have necessarily the bad intent, but they don't seek out ways to help themselves or to help you or to help others. They don't seek those ways out. They're still in a level of darkness when it comes to that. And so we have to think about that. We have to have compassion for them, which is not the same thing as allowing it or condoning it, but it's a sad state. It's a sad state. When you find yourself falling into talking about someone else, it's a sad state. It's because you feel tapped for resources. You don't know another way. You're not looking for another way. You don't see another way. Proverbs 19:5, a false witness will not go unpunished, and whoever pours out lies will not go free. Matthew 12:34, for the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. If Tommy's heart is full of love, how could he speak anything but love about Tony? How powerful is that? If his heart is full of love, how can he speak anything but love about Tony? You see how this has nothing to do with Tony? It has to do with his heart. Luke 6:45, a good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in his heart. Galatians 6:1, brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. But watch yourselves, or you also may be tempted. And this one applies to Susie. So if she sees Tommy participating in something that is not helpful for him and she sits there and allows it to happen, she's condoning him living in sin. The mouth, Proverbs 10:11. The mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life, but the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. Proverbs 11:9. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 more left. Proverbs 11:9. With his mouth, the godless man would destroy his neighbor. But by knowledge, the righteous are delivered. Let's help each other with discernment. When you see someone doing something that is not helpful for them, helpful for you, helpful for the other, let's call them out of it. Let's call them on it. Here's the sad truth. If Susie called Tommy out on this in a loving way and said, I can't listen to you do this because I love you, because I love myself, because I love Tony, I can't. He wouldn't be able to do that. He wouldn't be able to engage in behavior that is unfruitful. He wouldn't be able to use his mouth for a curse. He might go find somebody else, okay, and start talking about Susie. I mean, that's the way of the world. Or he might say, wow, Susie, thank you for being so kind and sharing this in a way that I could hear. What could I do instead? Can you please give me some direction and tell me how I can deal with these emotions and this situation? Like, who could I go to? How could I deal with my emotions? What do I do about this? That's so different than talking about Tony. James 5:19 and 20. My brothers, if anyone among you wanders from the truth and someone brings him back, let him know that whoever brings back a sinner from his wandering will save his soul from death and will cover a multitude of sins. Susie plays a key role here. So Susie might be thinking, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. It's not me using my mouth against Tony. I'm just listening to someone who's frustrated. I'm just giving an ear to someone who's in pain. Not according to James 5:19-20. My brothers, if anyone among you wanders from the truth and someone brings him back, let him know that whoever brings back a sinner from his wandering will save his soul from death and will cover a multitude of sins. And this is probably the number one reason, my number one objective for why I make it clear to people who are engaging in this behavior that I'm not okay with it. They're doing something that is destructive for their soul. Yeah, it's destructive for my soul too. It's destructive for their soul. And it's destructive for Susie's soul. It's destructive for everyone's soul that's involved. Even the one who's not doing it, and the one who's being talked about, it's destructive for them. And so it's our obligation to, if we have the discernment to see this, it's our obligation to invite someone out of it because you are helping their soul. Now, they may be calling you names in the meantime, okay? They may be talking about you even more because they can't even believe that you have the whatever to ask them to stop doing something or whatever it is, okay? It's just the way it goes. Zechariah 8:16. These are the things that you shall do. Speak the truth to one another. Render in your gates judgments that are true and make for peace. Think about that. So when Tommy talks to Susie, is he rendering in his gates judgments that are true and make for peace? Again, that's another one. It's like, wow, when I think back to every conversation I've had with a human being, was I making a way for peace? And it's okay if I meaning, we when we realize our mistakes in the past, it's not about beating ourselves up. It's about, yeah, it can feel heavy, it can feel hard, it can feel sad. You can actually feel grief about that. But it's not about beating yourself up. It's about saying like, okay, wow, I want to change that. Right? I can see where I didn't make a way for peace there. And then you just keep working towards it. You keep making that way for peace. Just keep making the way for peace. Keep building your discernment. Keep not participating in things that hurt other people or that hurt you. I don't participate in that. And the last one I will share today is Matthew 12:36. I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak. Every careless word you speak. Every careless word I speak. There's a lot at stake here. And our words, even though think about it, when you're young, it's just natural, right? You go to school, you learn the language, you start talking, and then you just keep talking for the rest of your life. We're never really made to understand how every single word we say, we are going to be held accountable for. Every careless word you say. You will give account for every careless word you speak. And that means if you are giving an ear to someone who is speaking carelessly, you're hurting them. You're hurting yourself, you're hurting them, and you're hurting the person that they're speaking about. What can you do about this? I don't know if in your life you might be Tony, you might be Tommy, you might be Susie. Right? I don't know which, and you might be one of those in different circles. Maybe in your family you're one person, at work you're another person. Who knows? But chances are you're one of those three people. What are you being called to do? I do hope that you see how vital it is for us to be addressing this issue, even though it's not addressed. It's not addressed anywhere. I don't see this as something that is pressing in people's minds and hearts in circles. I don't see people talking about it much. And I actually have noticed that it's incredibly hard to have conversations with people about this, meaning there's not a whole lot of understanding. There's not a framework. There's not it's a challenging area to really make progress in when you talk to other people about it because it's so socially acceptable. It's so normal that when you show up on scene and say this is not good, it just gives them more reason to talk about you. And you have to do your best to not be haughty and not think that you're better than them, but to keep inviting them into something better, inviting yourself into something better. And then continue that this has been a great experience for me in the sense that when I see other people doing it at whatever level they're doing it, even if I'm not doing it at that level, meaning like that zone, that particular way, I go out of my way to find the places where I am doing it. where it's like really it's sneaking in, like it's really subtle. I'm like, "Oh, I got that. I just found that." Right? I'm not better than them. They're not better than me. This is not a matter of being better than. This is a matter of Tony, Tommy, and Susie, and all three people are being hurt. And when we clean up this behavior, all three of those people can actually help each other grow. They can actually use their words for each other as blessings. They can actually clean and purify their heart because remember, the words that come out of your mouth come from your heart. If you have a loving heart, you can't do anything but speak loving words. As we close out today, I do leave you with that question. What can you do, whether you're Susie, Tommy, or Tony? Okay, what can you do to better this situation, better this dynamic, better your using your words as blessings, using your ears to receive blessings, and inviting yourself and other people into something better. One of the very practical ways that I grow discernment is I reflect a lot. And I know that there's a lot of people that say I just heard someone say yesterday, "Oh, if you can't pay any attention to yourself. If you really wanna have an uplifted state of mind, you have to just be serving others, serving others, serving others." And I do agree that serving others should be a huge part of our lives, and that serving others does take us out of ourselves to keep our spirits lifted, to keep us in the right frame of mind. I also think that there is a piece of our lives that is well spent in inward reflection. I often reference I don't know what Bible verse it is, but I believe it's in Matthew. It's in Matthew and another one of the New Testament books, but it's about taking the log out of your own eye before you take the speck out of your brother's eye. And taking that log out of your own eye is the looking within. It's the self-reflection. You have to look within to see the log in your own eye. And when you see the log in your own eye, then you can start to do things with that log. You can start to move that log. You can break that log up. You could burn that log. You have to do things with that log. And that kind of self-reflection helps you to understand things that you would not understand without that self-reflection. Self-reflection has given me a lot of insight. I believe it's one of the things that has grown my discernment to the place it is. I still have miles to go, and I won't ever get to the end, but I will keep moving on down that road. And one of the things that has really helped me is these kinds of self-reflective questions, these kinds of wondering about life, about relationships, about communication, about people, about how we use our mouth. I invite you into my journal prompt membership. It's called Say It Straight to Yourself. This is where you get one question a day, and these questions are meant to help you self-reflect. It's not just like, what's your favorite color? Right? But if we are going to have one about a favorite color, it's like, what is your favorite color? And what does that color mean for you in your relationships? I'm just making one up. I mean, that's not an actual journal question, but my point is these are questions that they're not just like, what's your favorite color? They're questions that help you go deeper into the log, deeper into the thing that is sitting in your view, blocking your view. We want your view to be unblocked, my view to be unblocked. And we get that through self-reflection. Okay, if you're interested in being in that membership, like I said, you get a journal prompt every day, Monday through Friday. You come with me, you come to one class a month. We call it a clarity call. It's an awesome call where you hear a reflection of the month, and we do a love seat for one person where everybody listens to what's going on with that person, and then it's a little bit of coaching, but you'll have insights even if you're not the one in the love seat. And then in 2026, I am going to start sending out a quarterly package to everyone in that membership. And I'm really looking forward to that. I think this membership is something that's going to grow over time. Those who are in it now do feel that it is helping them with this kind of inward reflection. They're getting questions that they would not be asking themselves otherwise, and it's tapping them into parts of themselves, parts of that log, parts of being able to see more clearly. If you're interested, the link will be in the show notes. I wish you a wonderful rest of the day or night. And if you have any thoughts, you have any comments, or you want a follow up video to this topic, talking about other people, listening to others talk about other people, or being the one who's being talked about, let me know because it's a very important topic to me. And I would love to hear if it's important to you and what would be helpful for you to hear. Bye for now.